Hello and welcome back. So in this video I'm going to be doing something that up until a week ago I've never done ever in my entire life. I started this video a week ago and then it got pretty boring because I had to figure out what I was doing, so we're starting over. So I am building my own English wheel and I've designed it on SolidWorks. It's based off of Lazze, the Lazze English wheel. Lazze doesn't manufacture his English wheels no more. But I've taken his class and I've taken some other classes and I've used other English wheels. Lazze's to me works the best. That's the English wheel that I like. So I talked to Lazze and he's letting me mimic his. He gave me some paper templates or let me take paper templates from it while I was at class. I came home, took measurements, designed it in SolidWorks, and sent everything off to have it laser cut out. And now I am bending it up. Now, if you see here, this is the English wheel, right? These are large radius bends. Like that radius is that's a 9.86 radius bend. And my press brake, when you're bending sheet metal or anything in a press brake, at least my tooling is set up to go to 90 degrees. So it does not do large radiuses like this. There might be tooling to, like, I'm sure there's tooling to roll stuff like that, to roll radiuses like that. I've used slip rolls before, but slip rolls are only good for 18 gauge steel max. I'm using 1/4 inch grade 50 high tensile strength steel for this part. So we do a process called bump bending or step bending, whichever you want to call it. I asked a few guys on Instagram. I talked to a guy by the name of Denis from Welding Works who does bump bending all the time, step bending. He recommended that I get this software right here. This is called Plate and Sheet. Plate and Sheet. So what it is it's a software where I punch in my radius or my diameter. So my radius was whatever times 2 equals 18.94, and then my width is 6 inches. And you program it out, and it gives you all your bends and your distances. And for these bends that I'm about to do, we need a 171 degree bend at 1.47 inch radius or distance apart, each of them. Now, I already got this printed out, so I'm going to clear it out and show you what this program is. So, file, new. It comes up with all these different things you can do, cones, and it gives you all kinds of different cut bends, and you can lay them out flat, get your flat pattern, and then cut it out, export in DXF to a cut file or whatnot. But I'm doing cylinders for what I needed, so I did a right cylinder continued, and then I got up here, so 18.94 for my diameter and 6 for my width. My thickness is 0.25, and I'm doing the outside because that was my outside diameter. Hit the button and there we go. Now you can change everything. I'm doing 40 bends for this thing, and you can do, the more bends you do, the smoother the transition. All right, the 40 seems to be working good for the stuff I'm doing. And click, I'm doing a half pattern. Okay, and there it is. There's the template. Then I printed them out. Printed it out as a 2-scale template, and here's where they're at right here. So those bends, I got to do 2 separate ones. So I put them out on paper. I'm going to cut them out on my shear right here, lay it out on my on my metal and then get to bending. But before I do that, I had a lot of trial and error. Here's one of my test pieces. I had a couple pieces that I was testing to get the bends I needed, and I ended up doing, I'll show you here in a second. I had, this was my pattern for this bend, and these were at 1.18 inches apart. I ended up doing it twice, half and half, to get what I needed. So I'll go over here. Here's the two pieces that I've bent up already. This is the outside of the English wheel. These are the outside pieces. I had to cut them in half. I had it one full piece, but it was hitting the press brake, so I had to cut it in half to finish out the bends. And I did the same thing for the inner piece. I cut it in half, and now I'm going to lay out my patterns on here and bend these up. Okay, so now I'm going to bend the inner portion of the English wheel. So if you can look right there, this is SolidWorks. This is how everything's designed. This is my inner portion, right? You can see it is not 90 degree, and these radiuses are different. This one down here, the lower one, is larger than the upper one. So when I did it in plate and sheet, it came out with different numbers. Now I label, when I did my templates, I labeled them. This one's labeled, I labeled this one for lower, and then I labeled this one for my upper. Now when I cut it out, I cut out just the paper template, and I'm gonna use the lines as my guides to make sure it's square. I cut the top off, so that's not a bend line. This is gonna be my first bend line. So let's get this. Now I know from when I was designing this in SolidWorks, my bend starts 1 inch below my tabs. So I'm gonna mark at 1 inch below it. Get a good marker. That's my first bend line. So my first bend line will get lined up with my top line. Now I'm using a fine point marker so I can line that up perfectly. And then I use magnets to hold it in place. Now I can just go down, and my lines are going to be square all the way down the panel, and I'll just line it all the way down till 1 inch below from the lower tab, and then I'll go back, move it halfway between 1.47 and do another set of lines, and then that'll be all my bends. Now, I haven't got this figured out to a perfect science, so I'll be bending a little and checking it, bending some and checking it, and sneak up on it. So I will be using, these are my side plates. This is the profile I need, so I'm gonna follow these. I'm gonna have to get my other, my top plates out here also, my other side plates. to follow it all and make sure that it's following properly. But I'll lay that out on the table. That way I can use it as a guide. But yeah, so bend a little and sneak up on it. It's very easy. You can go too far. All right, this is the upper piece, so I need the upper sheet. Now I can move it down. Let's do this. I move it down and line up the lines, and I know that it's straight. Now I got two more lines to do. Now that all my initial lines are there, get my calculator and go clear calculator. 1.2 divided by 2 equals 0.6. Take my calipers, mark it out to 0.6. 0.6. Lock it in place and mark a line. Now there's my next set of bends. I offset it by a half. Now I can line this up again with the next line and get my second half of bends. Now you might not always have to do this. I'm just not doing a full circle. Like I haven't figured out in plate and sheet how to cut and do like a quarter of the whole cylinder. It's mapping it out as if I was doing a whole cylinder. Now I know from doing the other ones I had to do this half bends also, so I'm just assuming that I'm going to need to do it on the inners as well. Now my upper half has all my bend lines along here. You probably can't see it in the camera very well, but there's all my bend lines. So now I will go over and get the press brake set up and get it turned on and get ready to start bending, and then I'll come back. Okay, so we're over at the press brake. Now, earlier I mentioned I was doing a lot of test pieces. That was to find out how much down travel I needed on my press brake to get the 171 degree bend. So what I came up with was a Y value, which is my down travel of 2.629, 2.63 is what I came up with. But it seems like it's varying a little bit. I think that's probably because of the high tensile steel. I was testing with mild steel and I'm using high tensile steel. So I will have to probably go through this multiple bends, multiple pressures or down travel, and just raise it up a little bit each time until I get it. Like I said, I'm sneaking up on it. I'm not trying to overbend it too quickly. I don't know. It's not an exact science. I don't have it figured out to where I can say, hey, this is the number that I need and do it. I'm sneaking up on it. Another thing I wanted to point out is I got this Trinity FabWorks laser guide for my press brake. I wouldn't be able to do this without this. This makes it so much easier. Like, I could probably do it, but it would take me a long time. I'm not using a backstop because my things are not straight. So I'm just lining it up with the laser and bending it. All right. Here we go, bend one. That's a little bit of a bend. Now we just continue on. Line up the laser. Line up the laser with my lines. Hold it in place. Go to town. Now I'll get a few bends done and then I'll check it. So since my metal is not perfectly square, like I got angles in it based off the design, I have to make sure my layout is perfect and trust that and follow that when I'm doing these bends. See, I can already tell that I'm gonna have to go over another pass, but that's so far off, not even worth checking yet. Alrighty, now let's go check it and we'll see how far off we are. I would say we are quite a ways off. So now I'm going to increase my down travel just a little bit so we can sneak up on our bends. So I'm just gonna go 2.64. Ooh, not that. All right. 2.64. Check. Go. That'll give me a little bit more down travel. I'll probably end up having to go up to 6.5 from everything else. That's what I had to do. I think I had to go to 6.55, but we'll see. Now I wish I had it down to the number. I thought it was supposed to be 6.52 or 2.652, but then I started doing my second outer one and I got halfway done and was way too far. So that's why I started sneaking up on it instead. Go try it again. A little bit closer, but still a long ways out. But you get the concept. that is step bending. Multiple bends, light bends along a large distance will give you a large radius. So that's what I'm going to do. I got to do that for this piece, one more piece, get them all fitting perfectly, and then I can start welding this English wheel together. I've gotten all my pieces bent up. They're all been done step bending, bump bending, whichever way you want to call it. You can see all my steps right there. It's not lined up right now because I got to clamp it all down. But before I do that, like I had it laid out on the table earlier and everything lined up, all the tabs and slots lined up. I'm getting ready to set it all up on my weld table. I cleaned the table up and getting ready to start clicking it all together and tacking it together. But first I need to grind the mill scale off the outer portions of the sides, like I did right here and over here on all the other pieces. The only pieces left is the both main sides. So I got to grind the mill scale off on the outside where I'm going to weld it at. So that's what I'm doing over here. And to do this, I'm using a purple strip disc on a 4.5-inch angle grinder. It works really fast. You'll see here in a second. I did this in a matter of like, I don't know, 10 seconds. So, and then realized I should show this. So here we go. All right, you see that? You see that it does a really good job, and it's really quick. These don't take any metal off. So they're not grinding, they're not cutting any material away. It's literally just taking off the mill scale. There's other ways to take the mill scale off. This is the best way that I found, the quickest and easiest way to do it. So I'm gonna get both these all sanded up where I'm gonna weld it at. Not going to do a whole thing because I don't need to. Just where I'm going to weld at. And then I'll start getting it clamped down and then we'll come back. Alright, so I have all my pieces cleaned up and I have all the mill scale off where I'm going to weld. Now, I'm going in and I'm beveling my edges. I'm beveling all my edges. If you can see that. I'm beveling all the edges so when I put it together, I can get some weld inside there and get some good deep penetration. I don't think my TIG welder is not big enough to do this, so I'm gonna MIG it. I'm gonna use my MIG welder on it, but I want to be able to get the wire in there and get some good penetration. And the way I'm beveling this is with the Ameribraid. And it's doing a really good job, really fast. I put the 36 grit on there and turned it up. And I did this in a matter of, I don't know, 5 minutes, if that, all the way around, the whole thing. So now I'm going to bevel the rest of them. And once it's all beveled, then I'll start clamping it all together and start tacking it up. I'm going to try and bevel them piece by piece and then set it back in place on the table, just because this all goes together in a specific order. So, but I'm going to show you how quick I can bevel this edge real quick with this thing. there you go. Matter of seconds, that edge is beveled, about a 45-degree bevel, halfway through, all the way down it. Now that's ready to weld up to the next piece. Now I'll go ahead and bevel the inside of the rest of them and then head back over. Okay, so I have all my edges beveled all the way around, all pieces. So now I'm starting to tack it together. I'm plugging in all my tabs and slots, clamping it, and then tacking it around. And if you look, you can see I have it lifted off of my table so I can get down low on the inside, outside. This is going to be moving around a lot, and I'm clamping it. Now the bends are not exactly perfect. It's not lining up perfectly. So I'm having to squeeze it together with these clamps, and then I'm tacking right next to my clamps so I can move my clamps. If you look right here, this one right here, this tab is pretty far out from that slot. So I'm gonna move, when I move this again, I'm gonna try and squeeze that in a little bit, and it might push this angle out a little bit, but I'm okay with that. And even if I cannot get that in there, it's still fine. I will be able to fill that up with a weld, like, if I have to. Like, it's not ideal, but I can do it. As long as the top piece fits on there, as long as this piece fits on, then I'm golden. Like, the top's gotta go on too. So I'm just tacking it together right now. And then once it's all tacked together, I'll go through and fully weld everything up. But I don't want to fully weld everything right now because shit'll move. So get everything put together, get it all tacked up, multiple tacks all around it, and then I'll have it lifted off the table again, and I'll start clamping it in place and to try and prevent any movement. And I'll weld all the way around, flip it over, weld some more, move it around, clamp it, and weld some more. I already tacked right here and here, so now I'm gonna, I don't know, I think I'm gonna tack down here at the very back. I also sprayed some of this Easy Weld stuff from Fireball Tool. I sprayed it on my table, so all the mixed splatter is just gonna wipe right off for this stuff. This stuff is great, smells good, keeps leaves a nice, smooth, slick surface on your table and prevents this shit from sticking to it. See, that top piece just dropped right in. So now I know this is all good. I really want to get that sucked in more. All right, you get the point. It's moving around, clamping it, tack it. Move it, clamp it, tack it. Rinse and repeat until it's all tacked together, and then fully weld it all up. Okay, I have a problem, but this is why I'm only tacking it right now. I'm not fully welding anything. So, see this gap? That's not good. So, I'm going to cut this tack right here. I'm going to cut that one, break that loose, suck this down, and tack this, and then go back into this, because I can squeeze that, because this is the bend. I can squeeze the bend. I cannot move this. So you can see I can move that right now, but as I move it, it's moving it backwards too. So if I cut this, pull this down, get this tacked up, and then I can squeeze these lower parts together with the clamps. So it's crucial that you do not get too far ahead of yourself and then screw everything up. So I'm gonna cut this tack, move it, tack the halves together, and then start squeezing this bottom together. Now, like I said, these bends are not perfect. They look like they fit together, like I clipped everything together on the table, but when you start welding it all together, stuff moves a little bit. So it is what it is. Gotta cut it off. All right, now that piece is loose. It's cut loose. So now I'm going to suck this down, clamp this first, and then I'll go back to these. I'm going to cut this upper one as well. Okay, now that's tacked and looking good, but I still got a gap up here. So that means this bend up here wasn't perfect. So I gotta try and squeeze that together a little bit and then tack it. How am I gonna do that? Not a clue. I'll figure it out. Man, when you're doing this kind of work, it really helps to have a variety of clamps. These clamps from Fireball Tool right here, game changers. So these ones are set up for 1x2. So I got a piece of 1x2 tubing, or you can use two 1x1 pieces of tubing, slide them together, and you can go as long as you want. And man, they work great. Look at that. No more gap. Time to tack it up. There, now that's tacked up. I can start getting this down, clamping that down. I might even use that big clamp that I just used to do that, but I'm gonna start on the other side, start putting the other side pieces on and get this thing all closed up. Okay, so I put the other side, the other pieces on, and they dropped right down into place. They drop down into place like I designed it on SolidWorks with the tab and slots. My only concern is this one gap right here. I'm worried that because the bends are not perfect, that my upper wheel and my lower wheel are not going to be perfectly aligned. An English wheel has an upper wheel and a lower wheel. They got to be perfectly aligned. They got to be perfectly aligned, lined up. But when I go to put them in, when I put the lower anvil on, I'm thinking that I can tack that and move it and make sure the wheels are lined up before I fully weld that. So I'm going to live with this gap. I'm going to squeeze everything together and clamp it as tight as I can with the tab and slots, because that's the way it was built in SolidWorks. So I'm going to trust the process, tack it all together. All right, there, the frame is all tacked up. I think it turned out pretty good. We'll see when I go to put the rest of the stuff on, get my lower anvil built, And then I still got to put the cover plate, the front plate on. This piece is going to go right here. And then this piece is going to go in here, wherever the wheel sits. The wheel will go inside there. The lower angle will come up here. And get all that together, put some blades on it, and we'll have an English wheel. Alright, that's going to be it for this video. I'll do another one when I'm building the lower anvil. So, till next time, thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, notifications button, and I'll catch you on the next one.